So it's two parts to it. So one of the
Oh,
parts
there I am. Okay.
choose what kind of viewing you want, and let me see if I can see what choices are in that little box up here. It says grid view, speaker view, and then window or float, and then enter full screen. So I have
You're a little piratey today. I just want to say that, Mario. You've got with just the one earring, and I don't know if you just had like a patch. It's more. I don't know. He's a little bit on the pirate side. Sorry,
I'm going for that. I'm growing this. I'm trying to I want to be like a Zen guy and ultimately braid it, but I'm not quite there yet.
Now, do you have a Zen?
And your wife might have something to say about that. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, did you ever see the? I'm trying to. By the way, I'll get back to that. But I'm trying to record this, and I pushed record, and it said starting to record, but the time is not clicking forward, so I'm not sure if it's actually recording.
It says that you are recording on my screen. It says Mario is recording the call.
I also see that.
Okay, good. Because mine indicates that it's recording, but the time is not moving. Oh, it's moving now.
So maybe you're in. Well, you are in a different time zone from us.
I am. I am.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're all in an alternate universe as well.
Well, we were I had a conversation with somebody about that yesterday, where for the American Pictures thing, because one of the people that's helping us is out in California, but because that's where her parents are and where she's from, but she lives in New York. I mean, she moved to New York some time ago and technically lives in New York, but hasn't been in New York for like months. But all her business and everything, she's on a New York, sort of time schedule. And so she's like here, but not all her business is here and everything, but she's actually physically living, in LA. And I feel like I'm in New York, but I'm in Long Island, not in New York. So we are kind of all in a bit of a virtual world.
It's true. I knew the day that Christopher Walken's agent was nice to me that we had all slipped into an alternate universe. And I would say it's proving out. I'm just putting it out there. I think it's clear that has happened some time ago, and here we are.
Did you get him? Did you get him in something?
No, but they were, it was actually for Girl Wired back when we were this was years ago, we were very first looking into trying to do the thing where you maybe get a few stars interested, and we were trying to get money interested. We were looking at a bigger budget. And so when I called his agent, and I got the assistant like you do, and his agent called me back and emailed me. And I mean, she was really nice. It was weird. And up until that point, I'd never had what you would call a good experience with an agent. So it was definitely a strange thing. A good thing. She was very cool. But
you got the pixie dust now.
Pixie dust?
Yes. Just sprinkle it and it turns into magic.
Yes.
Well, agents are kind of a combination of vampires and werewolves at the same time. Usually. The assistants are usually just, familiar demons.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it was weird. It was very weird. She was she was funny. And, when she called me, I didn't know what to think. I thought, well, first of all, they don't call you unless you go, I've got a check.
Right.
And we had some money organized, but I mean, we didn't, I wasn't at that write a check stage.
Right.
But no, she was actually really cool. And
you
I knew
describe
then something was weird with the world.
And you describe her as this very sort of husky, old mom.
She was, let me tell you something. You get a few more of these actors you're talking about, and I'll show it to them. And I said, you didn't say no. No, I didn't say no. And just like that. And she was really cool. I mean, I think I probably would have hugged her, given if there was no dog or anything around to bite my leg off at the time. But, she would seem very cool. And I think if I'd have been there, she might have just patted me on the head,
Sounds like she's a little bit older, maybe, and had a bit of a smoker's voice.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's a funny thing about the talent. You know, many people try to coordinate the talent thinking that's what's going to bring in the money. I mean, theoretically, if you're really working with some famous talent, if you're lucky enough to have that relationship, then sure enough, the talent can help bring in money. But generally speaking, if you have money, you can get the talent. You know, that's what they do. They work for money, for a living, in fact.
It's weird. It's so weird wanting to work for a living. So weird.
So, and many finance people seem, you know, they don't get it either sometimes. You know, they're sort of like, well, I mean, you don't have anyone attached yet, so we're not, you get someone attached and we'll finance it. And it's really backwards. You know, the idea is, it's sort of like, oh, well, you know, if you buy a building, then we'll finance it, you know, or if you get it maybe under contract. But that's, you know, maybe yes, maybe no, that's an analogy. But, you know, it's just not the way it really works. You know, you just simply have to have the money. You have to have the desire to make a movie financially. And then, you know, you can't always get who you want, but without money, you can't get anyone.
And in the end, you get what you need.
Right. You get what you need. Honey, I was just gonna when was the last time you just like dragged anything across those glasses?
Oh.
Like a cloth or...
Well, let me see.
See, it's like maybe you need to. That's all I'm saying. They're it's like a foggy mess there.
Well, he sprayed them intentionally to eliminate the glare.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Oh, look, it's weird. It's better.
Wow.
I mean, there's some glare, but I can actually see you now. This is much better.
This is one of the newscasters on MSNBC. You guys know the guy Chris Hayes.
I know who he is.
Right. Yeah. His glasses are terrible, right? But they're always foggy. But I think that they got to be intentionally that way. There's no chance that nobody's noticed that but me, right? So I think they're intentionally that way to prevent glare and reflection.
Well, there are these anti-glare coverings which make them look sort of purple and wiggly and stuff.
Hazy, yeah.
And sometimes they're just, you know, polarized.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, he's hiding something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Usually.
I don't know.
So what did you think of the new tracing thing they're gonna do?
Well, you know, it has to be done, right? I mean, given that something's got to give, you know what I mean? Like we either got to test properly or figure out some other way to allow people to work, right? You can't just insist that everybody go back to work and not put in some safeguard measures, right? But the thing is, you know, to the point of that video particularly, it seems that, you know, there's always this concern, right? That anytime that there's a major public health issue or like 9/11, right? When there was a major public safety issue and the safeguards that are instituted to form as a, you know, kind of a buffer for protection can also be used by authoritarian states as a means of limiting liberty, right? Which to the point that Rusty was bringing up last time we chatted, right? And so here's the thing. I mean, that's what they did in China, right? In China, they isolated everybody, right? That's one of the ways they got on top of it. They would remove the person who was contagious from the family, you know, domicile. And isolate them, put them in separate barracks, you know.
Well, you know,
they're a communist country, putting it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the point, right? That's the
and
point.
Also, what if it's your kid? That's what you have to ask yourself. When it's your kid, one of your kids, not both your kids, just one, who tests positive, and they say, "Yeah, Mario, we're going to take him. We don't know when we're going to bring him back. You don't get to visit him. You don't get to call him. You just have to trust us."
What
and Ventura County in California is doing
and what happens to your kids if you're the single mom?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
They become wards of the state, and then you got to get them back from being a ward of the state when you.
Well,
so you get to be imprisoned for a few months until they think you're okay, until they come up with, oh, No, I know that you tested positive and you seem asymptomatic, but it's been a month and we don't really know how
Yeah,
long it
right.
takes. And
You're putting yourself into somebody else's hands, right? You lose
right,
control, and half the, I don't want to spout statistics for things I don't know anything about, but a good number of anecdotal stories about situations that were in the MK Ultra program, for example, had to do with exactly that, right? These guys that had these CIA contracts would, people would check into a hospital for normal circumstances. And whoever the doctor was like, oh, I got to fill my quota for the CIA today. Let's use this person, just random person, person number 75 that walked into the room, the waiting room that day, and say, well, try this, right? And they would check in for, a toothache and never check out, right? And all of a sudden they had like psychosomatic problems and they had paranoia, and it's like, I had a toothache,
Well,
right, exactly.
ventilators are like that. Being on a ventilator is a little bit like that. And they're jumping right to ventilators, skipping a few other steps, because once you're on a ventilator, there's a good chance you will die. And then it will be, I guess, by corona. Now, Ventura County in California has started a very draconian version of what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
the video that
there
Tammy
is,
sent.
yeah,
Was that the mayor or that was the mayor of well, you can't have a mayor of a county. It
the
was
controller.
the controller.
Yes. Brain? What is brain? Oh, controller. Well, now, hey, Martha, did you get that document I sent you earlier?
Me?
Yes, I emailed you a document.
Oh no, I did not.
Well, I created this document that I think you'd find interesting, and I would actually share my screen with you if you want to look at it real quick.
Well, let me see if it came in. But I mean, to the point, we can continue just to the point of like, these things that are used for public safety, end up being, excuses for authoritarianism and whatnot.
Well, exactly. I mean, my dad grew up in Germany, and this whole idea of get on the trains, it's for everybody's safety that these people go here into
Right.
this camp. And when
Right.
it's you, then I'm guessing that's not nearly gonna make anybody happy. But that is the same rationale that they used. It's for everybody's safety. Let's
Right.
get these Jews and these gay people and these dissidents away and blah, blah, blah. And it's for everybody's safety. Well, yeah, like Franklin said, you can have those who will give up their liberty for safety don't deserve either and don't get either.
Well, there's something interesting too that no one ever talks about anymore, and that's Patrick Henry. It used to be that we went to school, Patrick Henry was all, it was the main thing that people talked about, this whole concept of, which I think is the motto of the state of New Hampshire, give me freedom or give me death.
Right.
And, or maybe it's don't tread on me, I can't remember. But, and that's, I mean, death is pretty, it's, who wants to die? No one wants to die. But I think there has to be a perspective that there was a time when to create the environment where by today we can watch television and chat on our cell phones and do whatever we want to at home, which we're doing now. That's an environment where that didn't just happen. It didn't grow on a tree. It was created from decades and decades, centuries of really hard work, and never giving up. And people at the right time, at necessary times. Civil War was one of them, where it was give me liberty or give me death. And that's something that people forget. Not that I think people should die, but in the relative terms of what coronavirus really is, it's like, gee whiz, do we really want to give up our liberty for a bad cold? That just seems really extreme to me. And to perform draconian, to enact draconian policies for a bad cold really seems misguided. And in that document I provided, I came up with, it really kind of lays it out.
You did all that. You arranged all that data?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
And it bears, you have to kind of go through it to kind of get it. But what it basically says is that the corona thing is really not much worse than it is a bad cold. And when you look at the real numbers, in a very few number of states, those countries that are yellow, It's pretty bad, but it's just a handful of European countries, including the U.S. It's kind of bad, but we're at the bottom of that short list.
Right.
And, I do a couple comparisons to the flu, annual flu pneumonia stuff, where clearly it's a little bit worse in some countries, but mostly not, only these few handful of countries. And then
Why don't you put it up? Why don't you put it up? Because this could become like something that, I just from the nature of the data on there, it seems like somebody should see that.
Yeah,
and 3 of us.
And we need to remember also that the big corona numbers are the ones that everybody's touting, at least for the US, but there is a different number, about half for corona deaths that really makes sense. And when you look at the CDC breakdown of corona deaths versus flu deaths, now flu deaths average somewhere between 30 to 60,000 a year. It's been 80,000, before for a bad season. And this year, like frickin' magic, it's under 6,000. I don't even know how that happens for flu deaths. Which
maybe the coronavirus killed the influenza virus.
Well, also it cures heart disease and stroke and falling out of an airplane and suicide as well.
Maybe there's a nano-economic theory among viruses that, like, you have to be a monopoly virus.
There you go.
To be a legit virus.
That people are saying that Bill Gates might have had something to do with it. So that's possible when you look at it that way.
So we could have a T-shirt that says, "I blame Adam Smith."
There you go.
That's a good one.
So what do you can you make this bigger on your screen, Rusty, and then point out some of the salient features?
Well, that's about as big as I can make it. I can make it bigger. Is that so? It's not very big. Is that what you're saying?
It's pretty small on my screen.
Yeah, it's small on my screen too.
Okay, well, let's see if I can make it bigger. Let me go over to here, and I'll do a bit of this. I'll do some of that. And then now, is that easy to see?
Much more legible. You can't see the whole thing, but at least what you see is legible.
I'll just kind of go through it and just real quick, just to
please
go through it. So this is basically a sample of countries, and they're sorted by corona deaths as a percent of population. So based on these numbers, Belgium is definitely hit the hardest. I think, and Europe in general is hit very hard, and the USA comes, at kind of the bottom of this list. This column here is total tests recorded from various, the sources are from each country and so forth, coordinated through this thing called worldmeters.com. But it's all the same numbers that everyone's promoting. And basically, this is the concept that, each country is trying to test as many people as possible. This other column here is the number of recorded infections based on the tests. So what that does is it gets you a percentage. So this is the percentage of infections based on the testing. Now the problem is that every year the CDC and other WHO, authorities, they understand things like the flu, and they do these samplings, they do these surveys, and they come up